so this is Sean here with Miss Rashida Strober, the first dark skin activist and creator of the term darkism. Miss Strober is a writer, a blogger, and an activist, and has done so much to speak out about darkism and colorism. You can find more about this beautiful, outspoken, and driven lady by visiting her Wikipedia page, which is found by simply typing in dark skin activist or Rashida Strober, or you can visit her website at darkskinisbeautiful.com, or you can visit her YouTube channel at Dark Skin TV. So first, Ms. Schubert, thank you so much for taking the time to come and talk with me. I hope from talking to you, I can grow in my activism and learn from you. Today, we are going to talk to Ms. Schubert about darkism and colorism, learn her story, and learn more about her work. So welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate it. First of all, I want to say I really appreciate you taking the time to even ask to interview me. I appreciate that a lot. A lot of people that watch my videos over the last maybe I want to say 2 years, they know that I be hovering about this plagiarism stuff. They know. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
So I have to say that I really do appreciate you taking the time to reach out to me and do this interview. I appreciate it. So I can, if you want me, I can just start from the beginning and
Yeah.
yeah. So, over the years, a lot of people have asked me, what's this dark skin thing all about? Like I've heard it in all different types of phrasing. What's a dark skin activist? What the hell is a dark skin activist? I'm tired of this dark skin stuff. What do you, I mean, like so many different ways I've heard it put. So just to go back to the beginning, the roots of dark skin activism is what I tell people. It really started in my childhood. Did I know I was going to create dark skin activism? No, because when you're a child and you're going through what I now call darkism, you have no idea how to articulate it. You just know that you're being treated differently than a light person or a brown person in your family or in your friend circle at school, etc. And so when I was growing up, I was treated differently. And I love my family, I love my cousin, I love my brothers, but they are what I call darkest. And that means that they discriminated against me on the basis of my dark skin tone. And that happened all throughout my childhood. I have a cousin who it was primarily two of us that were like around the same age in our family. My light skinned cousin, that's how I refer to her as, with the good hair, and she was always treated better than me because I was dark skinned. And again, at the time, I didn't know. But as I started growing up and I started being able to articulate what I was going through, I realized that this was dark skin discrimination. But that's the root of where it came from. So, for just to give you some examples, growing up, my lighter skinned cousin with the good hair was gifts, giving money, giving praise, giving clothing, told she was pretty. I could go on and on. Wow, when people looked at me, I was kind of pushed aside. I wasn't given the gifts. I wasn't given the praise. I was like the black sheep, which is a part of the verbiage of the darkism language. I was the one that was cast aside, wasn't paid attention to, was talked to negatively. So it started in my family. I have five brothers. I was the only girl, and then it kind of ventured out into the church. I grew up in a Pentecostal church, experienced darkism in the church. Yes. Experienced darkism in school. I remember when I was wanting to be a part of this play, and I couldn't play it was Peter Pan. I couldn't play one of the main characters. They gave it to a white girl, and it was like they knew they don't tell you this like to your face, oh, you too black and nappy headed fit this part. They just do it and kind of pat you on the back and say, here's a little part for you. There's another play that I was in called The Pirates of Penzance, and I played a police officer. And to me, that was it was the way I played it was not in a feminine type of way. And I look back on that and I realized things like that, it's darkism. It's subtle darkism. But when you start really pay attention to it and think about it and break it down and analyze it, then you realize this is darkism. So I experienced darkism all throughout my childhood, and of course into when I started dating. I remember back in high school, that was like the worst points of darkism in my life. There was this really dark-skinned guy. I mean, he was super black to me, but he used to pick on me constantly calling me spot, calling me all kinds of monkey, all kinds of names, to the point where I wouldn't even go in the lunchroom. I didn't want to go to PE. I just was trying to hide because I didn't want to experience these things. So as I grew up, I started to look around for someone that dealt with what I was dealing with, what I call darkism. I started to look for, subconsciously, I didn't realize it at the time because I didn't put a name to it, but I was looking for a person that dealt specifically and only with the issues that dark skinned people face. There was not a person available, so I started talking to my family about it. This one particular individual in my family. She actually kicked me out of her house because she always would say, "You're just jealous of light skinned women. You just a hater. I don't want to hear this no more. Get out the house." This particular individual, she would always tell me, I guess this was a way to kind of console me or to make me feel better about being dark skinned. She would always tell me that her mother, her grandmother was a full-blooded Indian with long, pretty, good hair. And she didn't say good hair, but in the black community, we know that when we talk about I got Indian in my family,
Yeah.
that means we know
Yeah.
that my skin is a little bit better and my hair is a little bit better because I got Indian in my family. And so my cousin, for example, people would compliment her on her hair because it was a so-called good hair. And this particular family member would attribute that hair texture, that good hair texture, to her Indian grandmother. And then she told me, she was basically saying my consolation prize, although it was a little bit lesser, sort of inferior to the good hair and the light skin, was my high cheekbones. Well, you got the you got the big nose. So it's all these different types of slights that was going on. I'm just building up to how this dark skin activism thing got started. So again, like I said, I was trying to find someone because my burning question was, and I still have the burning question to this day, why am I being treated differently for having dark skin? What makes this person intrinsically more valuable than me simply because they have a lighter skin texture or skin tone than I have and a different grade of hair, so-called good hair, than I have? And so after many discussions, many heated discussions, finally one day she was just like, get out of my house. I'm like, so from that point on, I got the chance to speak at St. Petersburg College. At this time, I was an undergraduate at St. Petersburg College, and it was during African American History Month, Harambe. That's what they called it. And I got the opportunity to speak at St. Petersburg College in 1998. And I had, a couple of months before, I had bought Alec Wet, the super dark skinned Sudanese model. She was on the cover of the 97 cover. I'm dating myself. Yes, I am, but that's okay. I'm trying to keep y'all origin how it started. So I had purchased Alec Wet's cover. She was on the cover of Elle magazine in 97. Beautiful, super dark skin, bald headed, and all white background. I was like, wow, I could not believe that she was on the cover of a mainstream magazine. So I bought it. I still have the magazine cover to this day. So, and then of course at the time, I'm a teenager from the 90s. So Lauryn Hill was big at the time. Beautiful dark skin, nappy headed Lauryn Hill, and I was like, whoa. So I was heavily impacted by Lauryn Hill's image. She didn't talk about dark skin, but the imagery is what I will always give her credit for as a part of the development of dark skin. Also, I was in the Uhuru movement at the time. This is a Black empowerment organization. I was an activist in the Uhuru movement from about 98 to 2005. Did a lot of things, led up a lot of different initiatives, such as I was the director of the Malcolm X Free Tutoring Program. We did all types of cases surrounding police brutality, housing discrimination, all kinds of stuff in terms of community activism. And there was this one really pretty dark skinned lady that had sister locks. I'll never forget her. She was super dark skinned, had sister locks, drove a Land Rover with Africa the front of it, like a sign with Africa. I was like, wow. And I was, at the time, I probably was around like 19, 20. And I was looking at this like, whoa, look at this dark skinned lady with this pretty long natural hair, classy. And so it was just different instances of dark skinned women that I saw that were, you know, they were the opposite, they were seemingly the opposite of what I was in terms of how they were being treated and respected. So again, those burning questions arise. Going back to myself, why are some dark skinned females, and I did focus on the females. I will say that at the outset. I did focus on the females because I was coming from the perspective of later on, especially in high school, trying to please the black man, trying to appear attracted to the black man, trying to get the attention of the black man, especially through my high school years. So later, dark skin activism has grown to encompass the struggles of all dark skinned people, male and female. But people need to understand it came out of self-esteem issues from the perspective of a female perspective. So I got the chance to speak at St. Petersburg College, and I decided that I was going to talk specifically about dark skin. And I wrote the speech. I remember sitting there writing the speech because you had to write it in the format of sort of like a bulleted speech format so that you kind of get through your points. So I wrote the speech and I talked about, all the different things, pretty much everything that I talk about now on the internet is what I was in 98. And surprised, I believe it was a $250 prize. There were other people that were speaking as well. A dark-skinned Indian girl. She was one of the opponents that I had, and I ended up winning. And it was crazy because the same type of feedback I get online, all the bashing, people have called me every name in the book, crazy, you're delusional, you're jealous. I started getting that feedback in 1998 after that. I remember walking through the crowd, hearing people saying negative things about what I had said. And I was like, wow. At that time, I was kind of still laid back and quiet. I'm actually very introverted. I know people find that very hard to believe, but I'm actually very introverted. And I was stunned by, people not respecting what I was saying, even though we knew that was the truth. Because what I had done is did a little bit of research, and the internet was kind of like in its infancy at the time with Google, but I was able to do a little bit of research on Alec Weck, and I found that Black people were saying negative things about her. They were saying that she's not pretty enough to represent Black beauty. She is not the definitive of Black beauty. And like the fact that she had her hair cut off, she was being called manly. All this stuff I had found in my research back in 1998, and so I decided to incorporate some of that stuff in the speech. And then I just talked about the beauty of dark skinned Black women in general and how beauty is not seen and recognized enough by Black people in general. That was the of dark skin activism. So that point on, I began to continue to develop dark skin activism in the form of writing books, in the form of plays, and in the form of live performance, and in the form of what I call darkism lectures that I have been giving throughout the community from 1998 up until the present. And so I'm also an actor and a performer. So what I did was I wrote a bunch of different plays about only dark skin. Actually, the first artist to focus, people like to give credit to other people, but we're going to give y'all a history lesson here.
Go ahead, give it to them.
We see colorism being talked about by people now. I've heard people give people like Amara La Negra credit. I've heard people give Lupita Nyong'o credit. I've heard people give all these people credit. But the truth of the matter is, I am the first person in history to focus only on dark skin, not colorism, not racism, the concept of darkism that focuses exclusively on dark skin, because that was something that, and going back to my academic background, I know I'm jumping around, but I'm just trying to give the history here. Going back to my academic background, and connecting it with developing dark skin activism, after I graduated from St. Petersburg College, I went on to the University of South Florida and eventually got a master's degree in political science. And so I continued to develop dark skin activism through studying colorism, through studying people like Dr. Margaret Hunter, who is one of the chief colorism scholars out there, through studying people like, obviously, Alice Walker, who coined the word colorism. So what I found in my study of all, and there's a lot of colorism scholars. Dr.
Mm-hmm.
Mark is one that I really respect because I've read a lot of her work throughout the years. But there's others. Don't get me wrong, there's a
No,
lot.
no, right.
But what I found, here's the thing that I found, that the literature, the colorism scholarly literature did not focus exclusively on dark skin.
Yeah,
That
I agree.
of dark skin. And
Yeah,
so, as a political science graduate student, one of the things that I learned is that scholars create new paradigms,
mm-hmm.
create new theories. And I learned that what I could do is take the power in my hand and say, if this is missing from the literature, then what I can do is create a new paradigm. And that's
Right.
where darkism comes from, because it's just a lack of a focus on dark skinned people in the colorism literature. And that's what
I agree.
again, and I'm pretty sure you know this. You look at the literature and you analyze it to see what's missing, what
Yeah,
can I contribute. And so I was angry coming up as a dark skinned female and being mistreated. It was an internal anger. It wasn't necessarily me speaking and talking about it, but as I started to study and began to articulate and develop dark skin activism, darkism, the concept of darkism, which is actually the book that I also wrote, came out of a lack of focus on dark skinned people. And so when I look up now and all the stuff that I've gone through from 98 all the way up until 20, I would say 2015, because after 2015, that's when people started, like, they would say I was crazy. But then I look up and I see people pretty much copying my work and not giving
yeah,
it. That's exactly what people did. So from 1998 all the way up until 2015, because that's really like the cutoff date, I developed dark skin activism in a multiplicity of different ways. And it encompassed the books, the plays. I created what I call the Dark Skin Activist Tour back in 2006, which features my play, A Dark Skinned Woman's Revenge, and other creative books that I've written. A Dark Skinned Woman's Revenge is actually the sequel to a play that I wrote called A Dark Skinned Girl's Triumph, the Rashida Strober story. All this stuff was written way before, social media came about. And what I was doing is touring. And another thing too, the white, I want to say, they actually got hold and gravitated to my work before Black people did. And I think the only reason that came about was because 2000, I want to say probably around like 2010 is really when social media started to kind of kick off. And then I brought my work onto social media around 2009. And as a result, people like Tommy Sotomayor contacted me, and he has a wide Black audience. I did not know who he was at the time. Someone had been following my Facebook post about my dark skin agenda, and they sent him my information. And one day he contacts me back in 2014, and he says, "Hey, I want you to come on my show and talk about your dark girl agenda." And I was like, "Okay, sure." I didn't know who he was. I should have did my research, but I went on his show, and then from when I went on there, I was like, "Well, I cannot believe the level of hate people." I'm like, "What in the world is this?" Before this, I had been doing my plays, in venues where, because I'm a self-booking artist, so I would do my plays and tour, and I had got some press from the white press, had already been on television, and it had been such a positive reception, with the exception of the St. Petersburg College episode. But it had been a positive reception. But when I came onto social media and introduced the work to the Black masses, I was not prepared for the negativity. I gotta say, I really wasn't, because I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow. And it was I wasn't cursing, I wasn't acting belligerent, any of that stuff. People were simply angry at me
talking about it.
about dark skin. So this stage of, and I call it phases of dark skin activism. That's really what it is. I entered this phase of dark skin activism where people was like, "What the hell is a dark skin activist? This woman is crazy," being called every name in the book, receiving death threats. I have been through it all. And in 2015, the Kendrick Lamar debacle came about, which again, these things I'd always been prior to social, and I was extending the sort of activism that I was doing to social media. And that's why I said I was like very surprised when people came at me for my opinion on Black men who I felt were darkest. This is something I had a radio show, that actually the first show, internet radio show or otherwise, to deal exclusively with dark skinned female issues. I created the show. It was called The Dark Skinned Woman's Revenge back in 2012. Um, I had been talking, the show was simply to talk about all issues about dark skin. I even brought Black men on the show who either didn't like dark skinned women, or they had women in, or men in their family that didn't like dark skinned women. Actually, I believe I released one of the videos. It's actually on my channel way back in 2012 or 2013 or something like that. But anyway, so the thing is, with the Kendrick Lamar episode, I was so shocked because this is something that I had already been doing and saying. I was like, well, why are these people so offended and angry? So I went through that phase of, after Kendrick Lamar, people getting angry at me because, you know, I said what I said about his dating preference, and I felt like he wasn't being sincere. He was portraying one thing in his music, but that's not what he was living up to in his personal life. I stand on what I said to this day. Called me crazy. They said I was nuts. The post went viral. And I went through a period where everybody was saying, everybody was mocking. And then in the aftermath, 2015 and beyond, when I started to see clump people doing what I was doing, but never giving credit. So then I started to see people like the Amara La Negras pop up out of the blue on, you know, Love and Hip Hop, and even with the Breakfast Club, where Charlemagne, they made me Donkey of the Day, and then 2 years later brought Amara La Negra on to speak the same things that I was saying. I was like, wow. So I began to understand, hey, this is I guess this is what comes along with the territory. First they mock you and say that you are nuts and crazy, and they turn around and do exactly what it is that you're doing, which is trying to be very critical. But that, in a nutshell, is the origins of where dark skin activism is, where it came from, and its sort of historical development. And it's going to be very interesting to see where dark skin activism is going to go next. I'm actually writing my next book, or I've actually written it. I'm just going through the editing phases of it. It's called Inventing Dark Skin Activism, which is given like the history of how this dark skin agenda got started. Because I mean, if you look at the history of it, there's never been a person to talk exclusively about dark skin before me. Never. I mean, I've searched for the person. I was like, and I always tell people, listen, I'm a person that believes in academic research and academic honesty. I say, if you can find someone who joined dark skin activists and spoke exclusively and only about dark skin as an activist, I would be more than happy for you to show me this person and show me evidence. No one's ever able to do it. That's the challenge that I've always issued to people. No one has ever been able to do that. The closest that I always give credit to, and I can't say that she called herself a dark skinned activist because I'm the first person to do so, is a woman named Cola Booth. That's the only other person that I could honestly give credit to. Cola Booth, for those that may not know her, Cola Booth was really the first person in my research. And this is after me starting dark skin activism at St. Petersburg College. I continued to research to see, hey, is there out here that's talking only about dark skin? And what I found was that Cola Booth was actually talking about dark skin discrimination in the 90s. She was on television. Her claim to fame is really being the line, if you will, of Osama bin Laden. But Cola Booth talked about the colorism, I call it darkism, that was involved in her life as she grew up. Her parents were killed, and she her grandmother, who was light skinned, didn't want to adopt her, want to take care of her because she was darker skinned. And Cola Booth was speaking about this and writing about this in the 90s. So she's the first person, the only other person that I give credit to that comes close to activism, that's like that has a real history of speaking about dark skin. She's the only other person and everybody that's really followed my work, they know that I'm always speaking about Cola Booth because she's the only person. And I've continued to look for other people in history, even with Alice Walker coined the term colorism, I believe back in 1982, but I can't say that she was necessarily an activist, but she did coin the term. But right. is the person that actually actively talked about her experience as a dark-skinned woman on a very consistent basis, whether she was on television, whether it was online, whether it was in her books. So she's the only other person that I could say, be honest and say this person talked about it, even though she didn't call her activist. So that's the history of dark skin activism in a nutshell.
Okay. So, okay. So now that we know the history of it, I have a couple questions.
Absolutely.
I definitely do see with colorism work, it's a lot of like it's not some of it is not that a lot of it is not that focused on dark skinned people. I read a book recently, same family, different colors, and I was so irritated, and it was about confronting colorism. And I was so irritated by it because it like spent so much time talking about like light skinned people and like the colorism that they face. And I'm like, this doesn't seem to be a book about colorism. Like it could be about like different problems when you are different shades or something. I don't know, but I don't think it should have been called confronting colorism because for me, colorism is prejudice against dark skinned people. So I feel like a lot of work that's put out about colorism is just talking about it's not focused on dark skinned people, and especially not dark skinned women who colorism affects the most. So
Right.
yeah.
I agree. And that goes back to what I was saying earlier. That's the point that I was making about the colorism scholarly literature, whether it be books or whether it be scholarly articles written in these different publications. It addressed skin tone discrimination. To
Yeah,
me,
skin tone discrimination.
is skin tone discrimination. People have always said, well, what is the difference between colorism and darkism? I've been accused. There's this one Mexican darker skinned guy that makes a lot of videos about me. Shout out to him if he watches this. He always
What's his name?
oh my God. I can't think of his name.
I think I've probably seen some of his videos too. Okay.
Always tells me that darkism is colorism, and I'm saying it's
Not
not. It's
necessarily.
not the same because
Yeah.
colorism to me is skin tone discrimination of any skin tone. I would even argue that you could include white people in colorism
Yeah.
because there's that it's a skin tone. So
Right.
because there wasn't enough focus on what dark skinned people face specifically, that's the
Right.
reason why I created darkism. That's why.
Right.
And I respect the colorism paradigm. I absolutely respect it. I've studied it for years. I respect the colorism scholars, especially the ones that came before this social media thing, because I don't believe that a lot of these people are sincere. I will say that.
Yeah, I agree.
So, I have a lot of respect for the colorism scholars. I have a lot of respect for Alice Walker, an immense amount of respect. But the fact is, colorism does not go far enough to address dark skin discrimination. It just doesn't.
I
And that's
agree.
why darkism exists.
Okay, so I did. So I know I saw one of your videos where you talked about Tory Lanez. So did you see that it has now come out that Tory Lanez made that up, basically?
Um, I haven't seen that, but I'm not surprised. And that
Yes.
goes back to the point that I was making. People didn't care about dark skin prior
Mm-hmm.
to I would argue prior to 2014, as I
Right.
started to push the envelope with it. And I know people will watch this and say, wow, you're taking credit. But if you really do the history, the
Yeah.
research, you will see that I'm actually telling the truth. People did not care about dark skin until I have to give social media credit.
Social
But
media.
with the advent of me coming on saying I'm the dark skin activist, people said, what the hell is that? You're
Yeah.
crazy. People didn't that tells me right there that people did not care about dark skin. And if you talked about darkism and dark skin discrimination, then you are looked at as the enemy. So for example, me
Right.
speaking about Kendrick Lamar and him not marrying a dark skinned woman, I was looked at as the enemy. Me speaking about darkism in other instances, whether it be where with black male celebrities not marrying dark skinned women, or black male celebrity entertainers not putting dark skinned women in their videos, I was looked at as the enemy. So when I see people like him coming out, you're just now coming out about this, and I'm looking for some authenticity, and I didn't see that. I
Right.
didn't get it. I felt it, and I go off of what I feel from people. Sometimes I'm wrong, but most of the
Hmm.
time I'm right about the energy. I could tell
Yeah.
somebody is being genuine. When I saw that, I knew that this is not real. You're not sincere about darkism. You're using dark skinned people
Yeah.
to get publicity for yourself. And that is something
Yeah.
I have never done. I have been dark skin activism came from my heart and soul.
Right.
Dark skin activism came from a burning, itching desire to understand why the hell were the people in my family treating me differently. That's where dark skin activism came from. And it just
Right.
shot out into me releasing how I felt in a creative fashion. Because that's
Right.
another thing with darkism. If you look at the research, there's a lot of dark skinned people that are in prison and behind bars.
Yeah. 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 It definitely affects that.
That non-dark skinned people get. And I said, I'm going to become one of those stereotypes. I'm going to
Right.
take my anger and my frustration and I'm going to put it into the form of a book and into the form of a play. And I'm going to get on stage and I'm going to perform this. And I'm going to bring this to the world in this way. I'm going to do it in a productive, turn my anger and put it into a productive way. So that's the organic nature of where dark skin activism comes from. And I do see other dark skinned people talking about it now, but I don't sense the authenticity. The origins from social media. It's not coming from necessarily a burning desire to let me find out why is this happening to me. And I'll just call out the truth because here's the thing: if if it came from an honest, truthful place, let me see your track record. That's what I look for.
Yeah.
I look. That's why I said when I talk about Cola Booth, I know she's sincere because it was no social media around. This
Right.
woman was writing about colorism and what she was going through as a dark-skinned little girl. She talked about when she came over to the America. I can remember these stories. I love Cola Booth to death because she gave it to me real and raw. That's why I
Right.
love her. She talked about when she came to DC. I'll never forget the story. She was adopted by two black people from DC after her light-skinned grandmother did not want to take care of her. And she came over here to the United States and she talked about how she would go to the store with her friends and how the black men at the store would buy the light-skinned, good-haired girl candy and snacks and stuff like that, and they wouldn't buy her anything. She talked about this stuff so candidly and so vividly prior to any type of social media till you know it's real. So I
Right.
was like, damn. I mean, to this day, I can remember her stories, and I'm like, wow, this is the story of darkism. This is
Right.
what really happens. But the point that I'm making is, I know it came from a sincere place. I know she ain't watched dark skin start to be popping and trending or the dark skin activists. I've even
Right.
had to go to my website and read my book, How to Be the Hottest Dark Skinned Chick on the Planet, and rip off stuff from that. I used to give that away for free on my website for years, but they started plagiarizing it, so I had to take it down. So I don't believe that what he was doing was sincere. I don't buy
Yeah.
that. So I'm not surprised.
The girl, and then I fell for it because when I saw him like do that, I was like, oh, I never really listened to Tory Lanez. Let me go. Although I kind of was like, this looks weird. I was like, oh, let me go download his music, and I went and like downloaded all his albums. He got me. I went and downloaded all his albums, but the girl said that wasn't true. She said that director actually uses her all the time, and she said that Tory Lanez set that up, that she was already in the video and that wasn't that girl's part, and Tory Lanez set it up so that he could like record a video and do like so he could try to make a thing about it. But I feel like if he had a problem with, if he really cared about darkism or colorism, I don't know, make an Instagram post. Don't like use a woman to, and it was mind blowing to me that he thought that she would just not say anything.
And that's darkism to me too, because after all the hard work of and I don't want to make it seem like I'm continuously giving credit to myself. I'm just speaking facts.
No, right.
After all the hard work of a person like me that created dark skin activism organically, when I see people using dark skin and darkism and dark skin discrimination as a way to get, and I don't care who they are,
Right.
man or woman, when I see them using it for publicity,
Yeah.
that to me is a form of darkism. Because you didn't care enough about dark skin discrimination until someone had to take the hits for it. Someone like myself had to take the hits, get the death threats, have people calling me crazy. You didn't care about none of that, you know, until after everything is balled over. And then you want to come along and reap the benefits and rewards because you think it's important now. That to me is one of the worst forms of darkism. It's hypocritical, it's dishonest, it's fraudulent, and it's doing dark-skinned people a disservice. I don't think I understand what exactly does that do for dark-skinned people.
Nothing.
If he, my battery is about to go dead. Let me hurry up and put this in here. Give me 1 second.
Okay. It kind of silences everybody else's voice when people do fake stuff like that.
Right. So if he really wants to help dark-skinned people, then one of the things that he could do, people like you going downloading his albums, donate a percentage of the proceeds to the dark-skinned people, for example.
Right.
The dark-skinned people in Africa, they are some of the most disadvantaged and impoverished people on the planet. If you really care about dark-skinned people and you're somebody that has some money, you need to put your money where your mouth is and help people and not just do stuff to gain clout and to gain recognition.
Right.
If you're not putting your money where your mouth is and helping other dark-skinned people, and you're just using the dark-skinned people to gain popularity because now it's just trending, and you're useless. To me, you're a complete waste of time, because where does that take the dark-skinned struggle? How does that advance the dark-skinned struggle? It doesn't.
Right.
I just don't see the point in doing that.
I agree. Okay. All right. I hope Tory Lanez watch this. Okay, so I kind of just have like one more question. Can you tell me, or what do you think? So colorism and darkism, do you think that there is a spectrum?
When you say spectrum, what do you mean by spectrum?
So do you think that would you say that would you say that all non-light people are affected by darkism and colorism?
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay.
And as I'm explaining, if you want me to clarify, just let me know. I do think with colorism, especially, I think every skin tone, including white people, and some people think that I'm crazy for saying that, but this is just my own perspective. I think that everyone is affected by colorism because of skin tone. And to me, colorism is about skin tone discrimination. So, for example, a white person could possibly experience skin tone discrimination or colorism. Say, let's use a music video. It could go the other way, to where maybe the casting director wants dark people, and a white person comes along and they say, well, you know what, you're white, you're not dark enough. I mean, how often does that happen? But I mean, it's possible that it could actually happen. So I believe that colorism encompasses all skin tone, all levels of skin discrimination, all skin tones. And with darkism, I believe that dark skinned people are lumped into pretty much one category when it comes to darkism. Whether you be a brown dark skin, I do believe that there's levels to dark skin. So whether you be a brown dark skin like your tone, a dark skin like Alec Weck, or what I call the acceptable dark skin, like Chili, for example, from TLC. Mm-hmm. I think that there's a hierarchy within darkism. So, for example, Chili would be at the top of the hierarchy because she has the acceptable dark skin and the good hair. So there's levels in both. There's levels in darkism and there's levels in colorism. But I do believe that darkism is distinctly different from colorism. There are similarities. I would never deny that. But I'm trying to keep my darkism over here because y'all gotta understand.
No, I understand.
Just again, for so many years, and going back to my experiences, which I have been very blunt and candid about, it started with my dark skinned self. So for me to just give away darkism like that after trying to find a solution and trying to find a something to operationalize and put in a framework my specific struggle, I can't just give people darkism.
Right.
Y'all can have colorism, that's okay, because I didn't coin that, but darkism is about the
Right.
discrimination of dark skinned people. And the bigger picture is what I really want people to understand is darkism, the impact, the greatest impact of darkism is what I call systemic economic darkism. And I hope everybody reads the book Darkism. Because
Yeah.
if you read the book Darkism, you will understand systemic economic darkism is basically the dark skinned people, their skin tone impedes their ability to make
Right.
money by
Yeah, it
women.
does. Mm-hmm.
So the bigger picture for me is to get rid of systemic economic darkism. And because I'm an honest scholar, I want to say rest in peace to the great Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, who the ISIS papers, which I read years ago, read that book several times. And the ISIS papers helped to inform my worldview surrounding dark skin activism and darkism. Because I was trying to understand why our black treated differently based on skin tone. And Dr. Frances Cress Wilson is the person. That book, The ISIS Papers, is what helped me to understand why are black treated differently than white people based on skin tone. And then that prompted me to start thinking about why are dark skinned people treated, specifically dark skinned people treated. So you see, all these different paradigms and how they can come together and work
Yeah,
together.
I
And
do.
I wish that people would, our black community would be honest. That's a part of darkism. Stop being intellectually dishonest. Don't say when you see something good, you don't have to say, "Oh, let me go," because people are not stupid. Eventually, people are going to find out what's the origins of something.
Right.
That always happens. If you look at history, if you look at, for example, if you go back, there's a book called They Came Before Columbus, Ivan Van Sertima, where people saying that Columbus and white folks were the first people to over here. And
Mm-hmm.
Indians were in the United States first. His research shows that it was black people that was over here first. So there's
Mm-hmm.
going to be some very intelligent persons that are going to come along and say, what's the origin story of this? Where did this come from? So that's very important. So I have to, talk about Dr. Frances Cress Welsing in that respect. And also Dr. Neely Fuller, because he also helped me to develop this worldview. And I'm talking about in later years, this worldview of dark skin activism, because he talks about racism and white supremacy in what he calls, I believe, 11 areas of people activity. And so that helps to conceptualize and put it in a framework to understand. So getting back to darkism, uh, darkism was something that I needed to put in a framework to understand it, to help me to deal with it on a psychological level, to say, okay, this is what I'm experiencing. And now that I understand what I'm experiencing, what can I do about it? So then the bigger picture of darkism is to eliminate it. And for me, it's to eliminate it economically. It is for dark skinned people to be able to thrive and achieve economically. Because my argument is that the darker skinned people, and all you got to do is do your research, are the poorest people on the planet.
Yeah, they
Talk
are.
about wealth. Now,
Yeah.
if you talk about Africa's natural resources and the raw materials that come out of the earth, how can we reverse that? How can we reverse that for dark skinned people all across the planet? How can we reverse? We have, in my book, Token Dark Girl, the It Dark Girl of the Moment. And I'm sorry I'm going off on a tangent here, but it's nothing
No, no.
related. I talk about how only one dark skinned girl is allowed in at a time. So hence Lupita Nyong'o for a period of, I would argue that she's the token dark girl right now. Lauryn Hill was the token dark girl. I write about all these women in this book. Y'all need to make sure y'all get this. Um,
We'll drop a link under it.
the token dark girl of the beauty pageant industry.
Mm-hmm.
Oprah Winfrey is the
Mm-hmm.
quintessential token dark girl. Oh my God, she reigned for a long time. Who else? Hattie McDaniel. She was the historic token dark girl, the first to win an Oscar. So I want to get rid of that. I mean, it's an irony there because you do need to see these token dark girls so that other dark skinned girls can go, oh, I can become that too. But then when all the barriers are put in place, the economic and social barriers are put in place for that dark skinned girl to become like the token dark girl, that's the problem. That's where the systemic economic darkism comes in. And that's what I want to eliminate. If a dark skinned person, and again, I want people to understand, I do tell the darkism experience initially from the experience of a female, but it encompasses the experiences of all dark skinned people, male and female. So when I say that, just take that in mind. But I want all dark skinned people to be able to have real access to economic opportunity, the real kind, not the fake stuff. Because I'm telling you, there's a lot of fake stuff going around where people make you think, oh, we have economic opportunity. But when you go out in the world and you're trying to get this job or you're trying to start this business and you need the support and of the people and the community behind you, and you're not really getting the support that you need. So what I would like to see is dark skinned people become economically equal with non-dark people. And I don't believe that we're there. I believe we have outliers. We have outliers. People always will point to the Oprah Winfrey's, the Michael Jordans, the Serena Williams. Shout out to her. I love Serena Williams.
Right.
But people point, those people are outliers and they're tokens.
Yeah.
And I don't
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just speaking
no.
actually true.
Right. What do we do about darkism? This the socioeconomic part, the dating part, the as far as prison sentences. What do you think we do about it?
That's an excellent question, and that's a loaded question. I think one of the things that we could start with is with the kids. So dark skin activism came out of my childhood. So that's how I know that you have to start with children. You cannot treat your dark skin, light skin, brown skin children differently. You have to treat them equally. And this is a black problem, I believe. I don't think that white people can solve this. Black people have got to start to value dark skinned children equally as their dark skinned children. So that's number one. Another way that we could work with darkism is in schools. So I always like to give this example. Teachers, especially white teachers, non-black teachers, they don't understand darkism. So there was this one little boy. I was a substitute teacher. This was a while back. There was this one little dark-skinned boy in the third grade. I was substitute teaching in class. He was super duper dark. And one morning he came in the classroom and he started kicking over the tables and the chairs, and he was just going crazy. And I was like, I just stopped because I'm sitting at the desk looking at the lesson plan for the day. And he kind of like, so I had to catch myself to see, was I really seeing this? And so I walked over to him, started talking to him, moved the other children out the way because he was like really going crazy. And I said, well, what's going on? And he said, this little girl called Black. And there was a Mexican teacher that was, I believe she was like an assistant or helping me. I can't remember exactly what was going on, but she came in the room at the time and she didn't understand what the problem was when the little boy said that the little girl called him Black. And that's why, he went on this tangent. And at that moment, I stopped and educated her on this is what it is. Because what happens in school when a kid acts out like that, people are ready to punish them.
Yep.
And for me, it wasn't going to be no punishment. As soon as he told me that, I was not about to get punished. That wasn't going to happen on my watch. Or if you tried to do it, maybe I would have lost my job that day. I put myself in the fire like that many a time. The real dark skin activists. This ain't that fake stuff. This is the stuff that goes down on a day-to-day basis off the cameras. So I explained to her, this is what it is. And she looked at me, she didn't understand. So the point that I'm making is that we have to start in the schools to, Black teachers we can't be bashful or shy about it or say we don't want to do it. Because some Black teachers, I mean, they got their little degrees, they come in dressed up, they done moved away from that. Like, they don't want no parts of that. You cannot do that. You're still a part of the hood. I don't care how much money you got. I don't care. I have a master's degree, and so what? I don't care about any of that. You're Black at the end of the day. And when certain social issues go down, it's your job to step in and say, hey, this is what it is. Because again, I'm looking at the punishment aspect of it. And again, you might be familiar with some of these studies that have shown and proven. The New York Times study showed that dark skinned females get
Suspension.
partially exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Skin,
Yeah.
same thing with black males. So we know that these children are susceptible to being punished just
Right.
because you're dark skin.
Right.
If someone is calling you black and you know that you seeing that as an insult,
Yeah,
and
that doesn't just mean black. You're a black person. That you're saying that's
negative.
you're saying is an insult.
It's taken as being negative. And
Yeah.
so what we have to do is we can't be quick to punish and suspend and kick a kid out of class. We got to sit down and talk about it. So what I did is I explained to this Mexican teacher in detail what this is all about, and I let them know that this kid is not going to be punished. He's not going to be written up. We're not going to do this. Then I had a conversation with the kids, and you know everything calmed down. And I've done this more times than I can count, very quietly as a substitute teacher, because I sit back, you watching children, you have to pay attention to them, you hear what they're saying. You don't sit there and just hear them call each other's names. You do something about it. You step in
Right.
and you do something about it. So in the home, in the schools, um, on a socioeconomic level, because to me that I think that's the biggest
Most.
problem. I'll talk
Mhm.
about all. People think that people have told me this, that I am not entitled to live a good life and have money, and I should just be satisfied with what I have. I believe that that's a stereotype on dark skinned people based on what I personally experienced
Yeah.
and based on what I see. And I would like to reverse that. And people, can be in denial all they want to,
No,
but
it's
I
it's
know
it's true.
that
I mean, even in a lot of books talk of like Color Purple has that theme. You're dark skinned, you're not gonna have anything, you're not gonna have a man.
yep,
Another book is Alice Walker, or it's a book I just finished reading. The Darkest Child. That's not Alice Walker. It's by Philip Dolores. That theme is in there. You're dark skinned. You're not gonna have anything. You shouldn't expect anything. So I mean,
right.
and it's the real life experience too. You're not gonna have anything, and you shouldn't have anything. You should just be grateful for being here.
That's the stereotype, and I'd like to reverse that because I believe that dark skinned people, again, it goes back to the economics for me. So what we have to do is find ways to make dark skinned people economically on par with non-dark skinned people. It should not just be one Oprah. There
Right.
should be thousands of Oprah Winfrey's. Um, it's all about the money. So one of the ways that we can improve that, starting with the black man. If a black man becomes wealthy, not just wealthy black men, but black men who everyday working black men marry a dark skinned woman, because that's about bringing the economics home. That could build up the black community. I know I see the look on your face. That's one of the ways that we can improve
I
the economic situation as dark.
agree, but I don't know if it happened. I don't
I
know if it
mean,
happened.
if you look at, for example, Basketball Wives, let me throw them out there. Basketball Wives is in existence, in my humble opinion, because of colorism.
I agree too.
Who's the executive producer behind that? Shawnee O'Neal, a light-skinned woman, going back to Dr. Margaret Hunter, who talks about the concept of social capital in a lot of her writings. She says that light-skinned women can use their light skin as social capital, meaning they're
Mhm.
able to get the wealthiest of the black men, which is
Mhm.
exactly what she was able to do with Shaquille O'Neal. And she was able to parlay that into Basketball Wives and bring on a whole bunch of other light skinned women. Now, they do have some outliers of dark skinned women in there. I will say that. But again, to me, Basketball Wives is a result of colorism, aka darkism.
I think I've seen somebody who's been, and I want to say, I also saw that in an article about how, you know, light skinned people can raise their social capital by being light skinned and finding and using that to, you know, to come up. But dark skinned people can't do the same thing. Light skinned people can marry up, and they
Exactly.
can use being light to marry up.
Exactly. And
So,
that, and it's been going on ever since slavery, where the lighter skin people were able to get better jobs and they were even able to buy their way out of slavery because their fathers were white and had
Right.
access to wealth. So this has
Right.
been, and then during Reconstruction, when the darker skinned people did get education, then they were, the dark skinned men, the education allowed them, and the stature that they gained from that education allowed them to then go out and marry a light skinned woman or a mulatto woman. So this has
Yep.
always been the case. So we have to figure out ways, how can dark skinned people get a piece of the economic pie?
Right.
That's
Right.
the key. So one of the ways that I think is marriage. I also
Yeah.
think business. And this the business thing is a bit tricky because what we have to do is we are going to actually have to have some love for each other. I don't think a lot of dark skinned people and black people actually have love for each other. And I'm talking
No.
about, I ain't talking about hug you, kiss you. I'm saying love enough to go buy your products. If
Mm-mm.
I see you selling something, I ain't gotta like you. I ain't gotta give you no hug. I could just go show my love by buying from you. So that's one of the hurdles that we're gonna have to overcome is, okay, when we do start these businesses, how can we encourage supporting each other's business so that we can get to that economic level? We can't have the mentality that I don't want to see this person get this money. It has to be the opposite.
Right.
Everybody has to get the money. That's the mentality that we have to adopt. And if we do not adopt that mentality economically, we're going down. We're going to continue to go down.
Yeah.
Future generations of dark skinned kids, dark skinned men, they're going to go out here, they're going to amass their wealth and go get them a non-black woman. They're gonna keep doing that. The darker skinned women, they do it too. We're gonna continue to end up in prison. There was another study by, I cannot think of their names. I have the research here, but I can't think of their names. But two scholars at the University of South Florida that did a study on dark skinned people and criminality.
Yeah.
And what they found is that dark skinned people, because of, they didn't call it darkism, but I'm interpreting it as darkism. Dark skinned people, because of darkism, are forced into a criminal lifestyle because they
Yeah.
can't get economic opportunities. And
Yeah.
I thought that this article was like absolutely brilliant because, again, they were able to articulate why darker skinned people suffer economically. Because some people will say, oh, it's just their fault. No, this stuff is
No.
systemic. It's
Yes, it is.
design.
Right.
Even as a I used to work as a recruiter when I lived in Los Angeles, and I can tell you right now, I saw um, dark skinned people that I would used to have fights with these white folks over, who don't hire them because they don't fit the type of person we want working here. I've heard the word ghetto used. I've heard the word loud used, and I knew that it was in a fashion to demean these people so that we don't have to hire them in. They wanted a certain type of black person, which they thought that I was. Looks can be deceiving. Just because somebody wear glasses and they're quiet and introverted, don't ever sleep on that person. You shouldn't.
Right.
But I'm like, in it. These people are discriminating against these black people, and a lot of them was darker skinned people for them being dark skinned. But then I saw other people that were not dark skinned come in there, get interviewed, and they exhibited the same behavior, but you hired them. That's darkism. So we have
It
to
is.
take those forms of systemic economic darkism. We can't look at a dark skinned person and assume that they're loud and angry and they're mean. I know dark skinned people that run the spectrum. I know quiet, nice, humble, dark skinned people. I know loud, belligerent, dark skinned people. I know loud. My best friend, Shamina, if you're watching this, I love you to death. But she's super light skinned and she's loud and ghetto. She just is. But
Yeah.
she doesn't get the stereotype
Right.
because she light skinned.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. You can be. I will take an example. I was trying to do a study on like fight videos, but it didn't really work out. But like yeah, it turned out to be too complicated. But you'll see like in the comment section, if it's like lighter people who are fighting, the comments will be like, "Oh, she a red bone and she can fight." Oh yeah, oh she can she's yellow and she can fight her. I didn't think the yellow girl would win. Like excited to see like a lighter skinned person in fight.
Chick named Big Michelle. I'll never forget Big Michelle. Big Michelle was the bully of the neighborhood. And she was so light skinned. She was big and light skinned, and she was I'm talking about high yellow. So that is not true. That is like
Right.
people can fight and they do.
Yeah, they people really think that, like, and I've also noticed that people who I can't tell the reason why, but I've also noticed when I was trying to do the study that videos that were tagged like light skin versus dark skin fight, the comments got turned off. So I don't know, what was on almost all of the videos that had that name, the comments got turned off. But on the ones that I was able to see, like you see that a lot. Or if the dark skin girl did happen to win, oh well, they got in a fight because dark skins are jealous of light skins. Now we don't know these people. We don't know why they got in a fight, but that's what would be on the comment. But yeah, like you said, like some qualities that light skinned people can have, dark skinned people cannot have. Like you cannot be a loud dark skinned girl. You can't.
You can't be out. Well, if you're outspoken, that can be construed
Yeah,
as
outspoken is loud.
so. Let me go back to the basketball wives. I love using them for examples. Evelyn is the quintessential definition to me of darkism. Same thing with Cardi B. They're loud, they're ratchet, but they're able to capitalize off of it.
Yeah.
They do everything and worse that a darker skinned woman has done, but they're able to capitalize off of it. That's darkism to me. That's
Yeah.
like a concrete example. These women go onto television and they fight. They're violent. They're ignorant, and they get paid millions of dollars to do it. If every dark skinned person, and I've been accused of it inciting dark skinned people to anger, but that's too bad. I'm not gonna worry. I'm just telling the truth. Every dark skinned female should be upset about that. Every
Yeah.
dark, because it's not fair.
It's not.
It's really, it's not fair. And that's one of the things that I broke down in the book Token Dark Girl, that dark skinned females who live in the hood, who actually live the life, and it's through no choosing of their own. They're just born into that situation, where into the hood, where they gotta fight, where they gotta go through all this stuff. They're innocent little babies. They grow up and this is their reality.
Right.
They get penalized for that
Mm-hmm.
behavior as they grow up.
They
They wind
do.
up in prison, in jail, in special education classes. The list just goes on. But the light skinned woman, same thing. They can go on television and they can capitalize and get their money. It's not, I am a victim of that myself as the dark skinned activist. People
Yeah.
do not think that I should earn money from my books, my commentary, my plays. They say, oh no, I've had people tell me this. You're too black. You need to stay in the ghetto. You need to stand here. I kid you not. I have had people tell me this bluntly on social media. They do not. So that's how I know it's
Yeah,
dark.
I've read some of your comments.
So that's that's the nature of darkism that I'm trying to eliminate. So the bigger picture for me, if you ask what's the end goal of darkism, dark skin activism, what's the whole point? To eliminate darkism and to get economic equality. It's all about the money, because it's all about the money for everybody else. Nobody else
Right.
has a problem when we see millionaires and billionaires, non-dark skinned millionaires and billionaires. We praise that, but we don't. We have a problem when a dark skinned person tries to rise up out of that, and it's primarily coming from. I cannot even say it's coming from white people. I have to be honest and say it is primarily coming from our own people.
Yeah.
It has to stop. If it stops and we decide to work together, then we're going to start to achieve economic parity. If we continue to fight with each other, then we're going to remain in the same position.
All right, so this is Sean. I really appreciate you. This is Sean with All Things Black, and I really do appreciate you coming here and talking with us about darkism. You really, showed us how we can center dark-skinned people when we're talking about, issues of color discrimination. So I really appreciate that, and I really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you. And I'm very humbled and grateful for you for having me on your platform. I really, really appreciate it. Given all the things that have happened over the last 5 years, I want to say thank you very much for having me on your platform. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.